All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Hammering Down, presented to you by Birmingham Sports. I'm your host, Caleb Hodges, and I'm being joined by a very special guest today. He is the star of San Antonio to me. Every time I want to learn about something about San Antonio or about the area or at all, he is the first place I go to, and he is just absolutely fantastic. And if you heard my phone go off, it's because Atlanta United 2 just scored against Tulsa. So
I
sorry
didn't
about
see that
that.
coming.
But Harry is the head host of United Soccer FC, and he is a co-host of SA Soccer Roundtable. Harry, how you doing, man?
Doing wonderful. It's a pleasure to finally be on your show. And like I said here, thank you for attending SA Soccer Roundtable on Monday. I thought it was a fun show and learned a little bit about Legion FC and what to expect. And then, of course, now it's time to return the favor. And um, here in San Antonio, they busted out the Fiesta jerseys,
So
the
nice.
Viva jerseys.
So nice.
So which are gonna make their initial debut against you guys. So it should be a fired up crowd because this has been something that the fans have been clamoring for. So this is year 6 of San Antonio FC. So if San Antonio, despite coming off of a tough loss, maybe this will give them that little pep that they need to take against a very good and tough Legion FC.
I mean, you did lose a little bit of credibility because you did admit that you invited me onto your podcast before, which, automatically brings your level down just a little bit. But other than the times that I'm on, it's a really great show and I'll listen quite a bit. But no,
You're
I
a
mean,
good guy, dude. Like I say, I've listened to your show. Well, probably not from the start, but fairly close from the start there. For that here, so in my opinion, I'm not sure if there's other Legion FC podcasts. I haven't found them, so to me, you are the best Legion FC podcast. That's on par with the one you kind of filled the spot for that was there for year one and unfortunately took off. Had some life events and unfortunately took off, but you picked up and doing a great job. Especially with the pre games, the interviews, the post games. Although I would have loved to hear the episode that got deleted. I would have just loved to have listened to that just to see, okay, how far did he go?
I'm I'm not proud of myself. I recorded it that night and I listened back to it that morning because after I got done recording, I hit stop and I'm like, we're going to listen to this in the morning just to see. I got off. I was like, I'm so proud of myself. That was so good. And then I listened to it back. I'm like, oh my God, why did I say that? And I know what you're looking at. I'm pretty sure Atlanta United 2 just put 2
Yep,
on.
they've got two. I was like, oh wow. So it is a odd year when in the West you have LA Galaxy 2 and Tacoma leading the Pacific and RGV leading the Mountain. And what the Atlantic of the East seems like, well, Tulsa's been down, but Atlanta United 2, what they've already got, 7 points, or what the win here would be 7 points. So
Yeah, they've been drawing against and winning against OKC Energy, which I mean I don't know if those really counts as points, but
both of them were on the road. That's the key.
yeah, that's true. But you did
And they
mention you
pulled
did
out a
mention
late
Rio
winner or
Grande.
late tie this last Saturday. So
Yeah, you did mention Rio Grande though, and
yes,
that is who San Antonio just played. Which for a lot of Legion fans, if they decide to go back and watch that match, they're going to be like, I want to play that team. I want to play that San Antonio team. What happened? What in the world happened that night?
so the first game and a half of San Antonio FC was the good at San Antonio FC. They started out very well against Colorado Springs. Had a hat trick by Patino. Um, was up 2-0 against Real Monarchs. They had a red card in there, and then when they came out of the half, Real Monarchs flipped the switch. Ended up getting 2 goals kind of in a 10-minute span, and San Antonio was lucky to walk away with the draw. Came out with some injuries. That's the thing that San Antonio is hurting right now. is they've already got what, 1, 2, 3, 5 players out on injury. Justin Dillon, who was our supposed to be the second forward's been out all year with a lower body injury. And I don't know how soon he's coming back. Nathan was the fill-in for him, but he's the one that got the red card. And then on the back line is where we were really hurt. We had Matthew Duplain out on injury.
Love that guy.
Connor Maloney was out on injury. Axel Schulberg, who's a 6'7", former MLS best 11, out on injury. And then probably the key was PC. He had been playing left back. He's kind of our all everything in the midfield, kind of similar to Mickey Lopez. That'll play anywhere. Just the heart of the team type of player, and he was out. So a lot of adjustments. No excuses. RGV was the better team. They had the better game plan. We put a center back Doyle in at left back, and RGV, before he could get rid of the ball, was pressuring him, because San Antonio plays a high press, so does RGV. And RGV unfortunately won the battles that night. It was just, I think, for a San Antonio FC fan, the team was a little bit flat, a little bit, disorganized a little bit. Their passing, I think they ended up with less than 30% of possession. And, not that they need the possession because they're a pressing team, very, counterattack team. But, for that night down in HEB Park, and all credit to RGV, they had the better end of the result. And next week we get them again. And I'm looking forward to seeing hopefully a more healthy team. And especially where we get Jose Gallegos back, hopefully starting, and in that forward position if Nathan isn't there for it here. So not to make any excuses, but injuries was the big part of why we lost. And let's be honest, RGV is a much better team this year than they were last team. You got to give them credit. They're 3-0 with wins over San Antonio, San Diego, and New Mexico. So three playoff teams wins going in. Now they played all of them at home. So to be fair, you're supposed to win at home. Let's see what they do on the road this week against El Paso.
I mean, is San Diego really a team? I mean, come on.
Well, prior to Landon Donovan talking about, his lack of budget, most people thought they won the offseason with all the big names that they brought in. So now they did lose a lot of talent, to be fair. I think San Diego last year started off poor, brought in some loans. The talent upgraded. They finished real strong. They had the issue at the end of the season with, Los Dos and Rising. Missed the playoffs, so they weren't a playoff team, but they brought in a lot of talent. They have that high expectations, but there's every year, I think no matter the sport, if you win the off season, more than likely you don't win during the season.
Yeah.
So, look at the NFL. How many times has the Raiders or the Redskins won the, hey, they brought in this player here, this player here, and or the Cowboys as an example here in Texas, they brought in X player, and it's always the sneaky teams that, just fill in the missing gaps that they need than the high paying things.
I mean, you're right. I was down on San Diego coming into the year, mainly because it's 3-0. I know it's wild. People who are listening to this afterwards, because we are not a live show, they'll be like, listen, man, we know the score, we know what happened. Listen, we're finding out live, so we're just as shocked. Okay.
And it's not even halftime.
It's not even halftime. But something with San Diego is I kind of thought I wasn't very high on them coming in, and I wish I would have made an episode about this because to get my full opinions out there, but I was also kind of worried about how it'd been taken. But so we're just going to throw it out there now. I think that a lot of people were really up on San Diego because people were happy about San Diego. I mean, they had the 2 matches that they forfeited, correct?
Yes. Well, no, they didn't forfeit. The Los Dos, they didn't forfeit. The Phoenix game is the only one that they actually forfeited.
Okay.
But it came out afterwards, and Lyndon Donovan said that if he would have understood what the situation was, they would have walked off against Galaxy 2.
Okay.
But I think they tied that game. But no, only one forfeit, but two back-to-back weeks.
Right.
Which, should never happen, but it did.
I mean, stuff like that should never happen. And I like this.
Last night in Loudon, with fans unfortunately doing something that fans shouldn't be doing to a Red Bulls 2 player. So, and hopefully Loudon United and USL headquarters come down hard on those fans and they're not allowed back in, because that's not acceptable. It's just there's no place in the game, no matter where you're at, for those types of actions.
For sure. And I don't know, I just feel like fans were happy about who San Diego Loyal were, and then they started making signings, and it's kind of like, oh, the good guys are getting good guys, and then it takes a while for that to come together. And I didn't know how well that would happen, because even against Los Dos, they were sloppy. I remember they looked sloppy in that match, but that's a way off topic. Let's talk a little bit more about San Antonio. And you mentioned some guys, and as a Legion fan, I hope that Matthew Duplon is out, but as a soccer fan, I love that dude. He is one of the best players I've seen come through the U.S. He's amazing. And as a Legion,
Cincinnati, which I think you've spent some time with, listening to your shows before.
Yeah, I mean, as hard as it is, I am a Cincinnati fan. That's it's hard, but it's fine. But the plan is, he missed a little bit of time with us, but whenever he was on the pitch, it was all 90 minutes, and he gave it all for all 90 minutes, and just a really great player. But Legion fans, they heard the name Liam Doyle, and they probably started licking their chops at the moment they heard that, because he was the best defender on a miserable Memphis 901 squad, which is not great. Also, you heard my phone. It is 4-0 for Atlanta United too against.
I'm going to see the goal. Oh,
wow. Yikes. Yeah, this is the exact reason I told Harry before we started, I can't watch the game. I'll get distracted. Well, here I am getting distracted anyway. I might as well have watched it. But
who if you would have thought it was 4-0 going into this game, you sure wouldn't think it would be Atlanta United too.
No, absolutely not. But there is one guy for San Antonio that does worry me, and it's not just Matthew Duplon, but it's Santiago Patino. And obviously he had the hat trick, but 4 goals in 3 matches is nothing to be scoffed at. And your number 9 does seem like he is kind of the star of this San Antonio team right now. What should Legion fans be expecting from him?
So he comes from Orlando City. And I just don't think he got the opportunities there, because coming in here, he's a big guy. He's physical. He's quick. Plays 2 ways. There was a play in the first game in against Colorado Springs where he tracked back a defender and had a hell of a stop. So he's one that plays both ways. To me, I think what makes him special is he seems to have that nose on where to be for rebounds and stuff like that. So he's what I'd call a kind of a poacher for that, where most of his goals are. But for San Antonio, if they can flip the script and get pressure on and get the field tilting, towards him, where he can run and slot it by, like he did for his hat trick goal against the goalie, watch out. To me, I think it's going to be the key for San Antonio is going to be, can they get him ball in an area where he can actually do something with it? Against RGV, they didn't they kept him out. His touches were pretty minimal. Hopefully with, injuries coming back, with Jose Gallegos coming, hopefully playing the full 90 instead of coming on at half for that here, with his creativity, with Emil Suelo, who came over from the Galaxy. If you put him and Jose on there, I think that'll give you your dribblers, the people that can facilitate, take you off the dribble, pass it, give him the opportunities to open up a little bit more with Marcus Epps. I think if you can have those three up top with him, he can kind of be in that middle to be able to clean up, the shots, the rebounds, and headers going in. So to me, it's all about that pressure. And to me, if if they can connect passes, because that was the big issue last week, is they couldn't connect from the defense to the midfield, and then from the midfield to the forwards, they just weren't able to connect. So if they can connect, and which is going to be tough because Birmingham's a quicker team, especially quicker than RGV. It'll be kind of interesting to see which horse race can which of the horses can actually win the race. Run going back and forth.
You have there. I've watched all three matches at this point for San Antonio because I wanted to know what team we're getting, because if you just look at these score lines, it looks like it's three completely different squads that rolled out. And so I was like, let's figure out what happened. And throughout all the matches, I had a few things just kind of come to mind, and I wrote down some notes. And the biggest one that I wrote down from all three matches is that your number 7, Falgesa, is that how you pronounce his name? He hasn't been good. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it's the striking partner for Patino, and he just hasn't looked great. Has that been the talent he's been going against? Has he just been off? Or is this somebody that keeps getting starts that really just shouldn't be?
It's tough to say because there's up top his partner. First game was Nathan, who got the red card there, and then the last game, and so he started against Colorado Springs, had the red card early against Real Monarchs, and he's actually Nathan is what he goes by. He's Brazilian.
Okay.
For that here. And of course he was out against RGV. To me, I wonder if he starts, because I think Jose Gallegos is the kid that's probably should start ahead of him. I'm hoping, and Jose's a San Antonio FC Academy product. He's had some U20, or I think he's on the rumor to be on the U20 list for the U.S. men's national team. Just came back from a 2-week trial over with Bayern Munich, and also found out that he had a trial with Barcelona over in Europe to take a look. So he had his first appearance last week, in the second half here. So I'm hoping that Jose is the one that gets the start up front with the attacking. Nathan is. He wasn't intended to be our starter because it was supposed to be Justin Dillon, but Dillon's been hurt and hasn't seen any of the action. So we've been saying San Antonio needs another forward, for that here to complement Patino, whether that's. But it kind of depends on how long that Dillon's out, because Dillon is special. He comes from the Sounders organization. He's had a lot of key moments with, Sounders 2 and Tacoma Defiance, but if he's not on the pitch, and he's going to be out long term, to me, that is something that we've talked about on our show of, do we go out and get another forward? Because obviously Santiago has done well, 4 goals, but he's got to have somebody that can assist him, because, people are going to start targeting him like RGV did, where you're going to put 2-3 guys on him, and you've got to have somebody that can finish it finish it up on the other side. So unless there's a change in formation, which last year they ran a 3-5-2 with 2 up top with Jose up top. This year they've been pretty consistent with the 4-4-2. So but with all the injuries, and especially with the fullbacks positions being a little bit down, you wonder if maybe a change in the formation might benefit them. But we will see come Saturday.
It's really interesting to watch the San Antonio side because looking at the talent that's on there and looking at just the system that your coach has brought in, it's it's been a very good off season for you guys. And
Mhm.
by all accounts, you guys should be a contender in the West. And to your point, like you said, there's been a lot of injuries. I mean, there's been some continuity between each lineup, especially in the back line. It hasn't been there.
Mm-mm.
And the continuity that you have had, except for Patino, hasn't been great. Even in
No.
your 3-0 win, it just seemed disappointing. And Nathan, even in that 3-0 win, just would lose possession like crazy and would end great chances because he tried to get a little cute with the ball, or he tried to have some pass that just really had no intent behind it besides this would be awesome if they get on the other end of this. And that's just kind of how San Antonio has looked. So
Well, especially last week, I think that burned them. Is they I called it the home run ball, where they kept trying to swing for the fence, trying to clear instead of trying to build up from the back. And Royce, the other co-host, that's on the show, you know, talked about a little bit more on the tactical side of it, but on the fan side, it was a hard game to watch, because we'd get possession, would go over the top. But RGV, at the time would get the balls, and then of course, they would come back and get attempts on there and put the defense at risk. Which RGV, while they're better, they're not as good offensively as Legion is. Legion is going to have a much, in my opinion, a much better attack. With Junior Flemings, Nico Bratt, I forget the JJ Williams, I believe is the other guy. For there. And I know you mentioned a couple others that are also in the attack. So to me, that actually kind of worries me a little bit, is if they try to just kind of go over. You guys have a good defense yourself. If they play the same way they played against RGV, it could be a long night here in San Antonio. Now, we all know playing at home and playing on the road is different. It's, whatever it is, the fan support. I think they'll have probably about 3,800, at Toyota Field. It seems like what the average for it here in because it's about 30% capacity is what they're still at. So it won't be a full Toyota Field as of yet, but it'll still be a fun environment, for them to play. And let's be honest, I know you guys had 10,000 there last week. Was that Legion Stadium or Legion Field?
Legion Field.
Legion
Yep.
Field. So it's the players love it, and I know it'll be a homecoming game, hopefully for Mikey Lopez and his family. I know they do a hell of a tailgate, because he's from South Texas, so I'd expect to see them out there. And then Zachary Harivo, hopefully he'll be making an appearance back since he re-signed with you guys after visiting San Antonio last year.
Hervo is quite a talent, and I really hope Mikey's healthy. And the thing is that it seems like the players that we lost just seem to be impact players, and that really sucks. We were down Alex Crognale, who, by all accounts, going into the season was going to be our number one defender. He was the guy. And obviously, Fanuel Convita came in and he took the captain's armband immediately. And when I first saw that, I was like, I've heard people liked him, but I didn't know they liked him that much. And then I saw him on the pitch and just how he played and how he directed everybody else. And it's like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And then you have, but Alex is out. And then Johnny Dean was out, who was the leading assister out of all fullbacks in USL last year. We had Mikey Lopez out, and just stuff like that just kind of added up, and it just and then we lost Prosper along the way, and it really hurt us, I think, especially against Memphis, where we could have had a little bit more offensive firepower, especially someone like Johnny Dean, who with his speed And the guys that we have coming in behind him, Jake Roof, who is a fantastic talent. We have a game by game loan and Freddie. Oh, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong.
Kleeman. Was it Kleeman?
Yes.
Frederick Kleeman. Yeah, from Austin FC.
Yeah. I messed it. I saw him at the match the other day and I pronounced his last name wrong. And I felt so embarrassed. And so now I just don't even want to try.
Am I off on it? Or?
No, I think you're right. But I mean, just we have great talent back there. But again, like you said, continuity is a big deal, especially for a group of players that Legion like to push everything forward. And it's kind of a really interesting tactic because Legion don't want to take that first shot. And I kind of made a post about this earlier today on my Twitter. And it was about how we would rather lay the ball off for the 95% shot rather than taking the first shot on 90%. Mm-hmm. Both are very likely to go in, but we would rather fight that for that final 5% rather than just taking it first time. And that's really hard to watch. But what that does allow is if we pass the ball back, we allow our fullbacks of Ryan James and Johnny Dean to push up into the offensive third. And then if we can hold possession, it just becomes an onslaught of we'll either give up a goal kick, get a corner, or we'll get a shot in the goal. Because the way Legion play, it's going to be one of those three things. There's not many times that we're going to be caught on a counter because we are very much an all or nothing, but very smart about it. So on one hand, I really like that decision by Coach Stone, where it's not very likely that you'll counter us. It's just the truth.
Really? So that's going to be kind of an interesting thing to kind of look out for this match, is to see which team can impose their will. Because it sounds like you guys play attacking, we play attacking. So at some point, it's got to open up, unless it's just going to be, a back and forth game where defenses are non-existent. It's going to me, that's kind of interesting, because I think San Antonio is strong enough in the back, with the experience that they have and the height that they have, that they're able to kind of withstand some of it. For their here, and they've got, generally speed on the fullback side, with Doyle's playing fullback, then not so much. So hopefully he's not. And from what I understand, DePlane's not the quickest guy either, as in talking with guys from Cincy Soccer Talk for that here. So, but with what's his name? His mom's gonna kill me. Gleedle. Gleedle back there, he's the one that can track back and forth, and really, as far as if a fullback's going to go forward, it's most likely going to be him. And then we have the center back Kamiri from Tunisia. That dude is a horse. Let me tell you, he's one that he's not afraid to use his body. He's not afraid to let you know he's there, but he's smart. And like I said, he's on loan from Vancouver. Whitecaps. So to me, like I said here, I'm kind of interested to see kind of the chess match of this game here, to see how it kind of works out, where both teams sounds like they attack, but yet both teams so far haven't really been burned, on the counters as of yet. And even in San Antonio's loss, it really wasn't the counters that lost to him. It was, a bad throw in, by Doyle that caused a turnover, and then they pressed him again and for the here, but it really wasn't where they were caught forward and they responded back. So, and I know you guys got the speed up top to kind of help mess in the midfield as well.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because this chess match is going to be very interesting, and I think something that's going to be very underrated for USL fans. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a San Antonio or a Legion fan, but you're just a fan of other teams, something that I'm looking forward to is going to be the set piece battle. Because, I mean, San Antonio has some mountain ranges in the back line, just absolute behemoths. They're all healthy. But the thing is so does Legion. Legion has we have 4 guys, not including Freddie, who hasn't played yet, who are above 6'2", 6'3" in our starting lineup, our regular starting lineup, which San Antonio, I think, also has 3 or 4 guys who are just as big. And so I think it's going to be the battle of a big man in a game full of speedy guys. And so someone like Johnny Dean, who he loves to run up and put in a cross, well, is he going to try ground pass or ground crosses like he has lately? That might work. But if you try anything in the air, you better hope that it's JJ Williams getting his head on it, because Nico Brett, love you to death, dude, but you're not as tall as JJ. It's just a fact of life. And you kind of forget how tall some of these guys are. As they were walking off the pitch the other day, I went down and, said, hey, congrats, guys, great win. Proud of you. Love you. And I'm not small. I'm a 6'1" dude. Like, I'm not tiny by any means, but I felt so minuscule compared to some of these guys.
They're tall. They're thick in a good way.
Yeah.
They're an NFL body, they're a college football type of body, to where, if they wanted to play, football, they could have played football. They just ended up playing soccer, and they've been blessed with the talent to do that. I've seen some guys that are, 6'4", 6'5", but thin. And you're like, okay, yeah, you're tall, but you're going to get pushed around. At least with San Antonio's back line, you're not pushing them around. They're going to be able to hold their position. They're going to be able to dish out, some body and some, physical contact, hopefully within the rules, for that here. USL refs are a whole different conversation, which I'm sure we don't have enough time to go over. So love you guys, but sometimes it's just frustrating. But yeah, to me, it almost seems like these teams are kind of mirror images of each other. Where we've got Jose Gallegos, who I think will probably be starting, or last week they did Emil Suelo, number 10. Although I think he's better in the midfield. I think San Antonio missed his creativity in the midfield going forward. But I'm thinking if you can have Emil and Jose, that would, because that could help kind of create a little bit more of those crosses, a little bit more of the creativity that we lacked last week. For what we could see, of the match here. I don't know if you've watched the SAFC RGV match, but on ESPN Plus, a lot of it was missing. We'll just say. So, there's people that got subbed in that we didn't get to see. So we'll see. But I heard that may have been an issue at our RGV. I've heard some other things that happened down there that, with the electronics that wasn't good. So
this is very interesting. And like you said, these teams are very much just mirror images of each other. Mm-hmm. And San Antonio more than Legion, but both teams definitely like to get stuck in, and they like to go in and maybe toe the line of what's acceptable and what isn't. And
on that line, yes.
And especially for a guy for Legion, which everybody loves this dude to death, Anderson Sudu. He is a guy who he is 5'6", and he's going to kick something that I can't say on this family-friendly podcast. Actually, I can't say it. Anybody else can, but he is definitely not afraid to go in hard and go in fast. He doesn't play dirty. He's not a dirty player, but he doesn't know any speed besides
full.
But
he pushes that line, though. That's the thing, is he pushes up to that line in a professional way.
He does. The thing that gets him in trouble is that he gets in everybody's face, including the ref. He doesn't like to yell at the ref from a distance that doesn't get the point across. He likes to get nose to nose with them, because that's just what he does.
So I think you mentioned his temper gets the best of him sometimes, we'll just say.
Last year, yes. We haven't seen that as much this year, but it's also very, very early into the year. So it's too early to say, but he's also Legion's best. He's the MVP of the year so far. And that's saying a lot with the guys like Fanuel Kavita, like Matt Van Oekel, with Nico Brett and Bruno Lapa, guys who are all USL like players, but Anderson Sidhu is easily the key to this Legion team because I mean he's learned how to dribble the ball. Which he could dribble it last year, but his dribbles would always end up with him having a go from about 45 yards out. And this year he hasn't done that. He's figured out that shooting from 35 plus is not always the best idea when you're trying to hold possession. I love the aggression from the dude. And that's just his whole personality is the aggressiveness. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see the aggressiveness from San Antonio and the aggressive from someone like Anderson Sidhu, from JJ Williams, who also likes to be big and physical because he can do that. And it's going to be really interesting to see how those guys feed off of each other and feed off the referees, because I'm sure the referees know that both teams that are coming in here, and they know that they're going to have to be on their best behavior because neither team is dirty, but both teams love to go in hard and they love
It's a physical game. It's a physical. When Coach Marcin is known, his teams are known as ankle biters. Just where always yep, always pushing that button, always that physical out. He says, hey, we're gonna push you for 90 minutes. And that's his philosophy. He goes hard. He pushes, he pushes the teams, he wants to pressure. And as we saw against Real Monarchs, you had a player that he didn't intend to hurt the guy, and he didn't hurt the guy, but he stuck his leg out trying to, and he got caught, and that's why he got the red card. And it's just, as a fan, you're like, hey, what happened? And then I was even talking Monday morning saying, hey, I hope that they appeal the red card, because I hadn't rewatched the game. And then I had one of the guys I know in Salt Lake saying, why do you think it should be? He kicked out. Watch his leg. And sure enough, on review, you're like, yep, he's gone. So, and it's just that mentality. And, I think both teams, as I mentioned, I think both teams kind of mirror each other. And in a lot of ways, we talk about it on the field, but I think off the field as well, where they've got the talent, but somehow they've never been able to put the talent together like you think that they would. And, hopefully this year is different. We're only 3 games in, and I think both teams are sitting at 4 points, and won, lost one, tied one. And I think both fan bases are, I think, overall happy with their teams. Like, they still see the promise of it, but there are a few things that kind of, make you kind of, question a little bit. Can this team live up to the expectations going in? Because I think both, listening to your podcast and other podcasts here, both of these teams are expected to do very well this year. And by very well, I'm thinking probably top 2, top 3 at most, in the division. I think if either one's, battling for that 4th, battling to get into the playoff spots, I think it'll be a disappointment, for both Legion and San Antonio for there, because I think talent wise, they have the talent to be up there with Louisville, up there with the Phoenixes. It's just that mentality of being able to prove it, week in and week out, which so far they have not been able to do.
Yeah, I mean, there was something that you and I talked about on United Soccer FC on that podcast. Mm-hmm. And you asked me, you were like, so how are the Tommy Sohn fans doing? Is the Sohn out call started happening? Because this is a very similar projection that San Antonio was on, where they made the playoffs for 2-3 years in a row and they were fine, but never really crossed that threshold of being more than just fine. They never got to being great. And it's very early. It's 3 games into the season. And I'm not one of these people, but definitely the Sohn out conversation has gotten a lot louder, especially after the India game. And people eventually said, you know what, maybe playing on a beach is not the best way we should be judging our coach. That's not their fault. But it was also just like, well, here's the whole mentality of he should have known to change his tactics, that playing quick and playing, more complex balls, because that's the thing with Legion is that they're a very complex team. their offense is very short passes, long passes. It's going to be very quick movements. And someone like Indy just took advantage of that. It's like, okay, there's sand on the pitch. Let's just one easy pass here, one easy pass here, 1-2 touch. Let's get it away. While Legion were just and so set on, one touch passes all over the place, which just didn't work out. Because if you watch that match back, Indy never dispossessed Legion. I think there were 2 times I counted that the Indy 11 made a tackle or just straight up intercepted a ball that was a good ball or just a bad dribble. Every other time has been Legion just dispossessed themselves because they tried to do something a little too fancy. And people were like, well, why didn't Tommy Stone fix that? And I think this is where the San Antonio Legion comparisons can keep on going, because it's kind of a similar trajectory to San Antonio's original coach, where it's like, he's fine and he will do a good job, but he will never be.
He doesn't get you across the finish line.
He doesn't cross the finish line, which I still believe that Tommy Stone can, but his time looks like it might be running out if he does not turn it around fast, which is why a lot of Legion fans, including myself, circled this, because it's not just how will the playoffs shake up after this. Is our coach going to be safe after this? So kind of an interesting little off the pitch thing that's happening within this, which I think is very interesting.
So here's one key that I think for San Antonio that they have to improve on. And it'll be interesting if they can do it this week. If you look at the passing accuracy, and I know that's not a great stat to go by, but for instance, Birmingham Legion's 13th at 77%, which is
it's fine.
Most people are 28th is 70%. San Antonio's dead last at 56%. So, and that's where it kind of comes into that possession, that home run ball that I keep saying here. If San Antonio continues at that 50, mid 50 passing, and last week they were below 50% against RGV. To me, that's the key for San Antonio is can they finally start to connect? But the odd thing is when they score their goals, they're scoring on assists. Like they've got 3 assists for goals, which is one of the leading in USL. But it's that connection to be able to go, from point A to point B. And to me, you cannot give a team like Birmingham, the Legion, you can't give them 70% of the ball, for that here, because they will. And I know your conversion rate, and I think you've already hinted on this, is the concern for Birmingham, for here where it's at 8%. According to the USL site, and San Antonio is 22%. So, we're a lot more successful, on when we get into the attacking side. But to me, I think that's the game. If Legion can keep it to where San Antonio is getting turned over, not being able to convert passes due to pressure and keeping them from being able to convert. Whereas on the other hand, if San Antonio can keep keep you guys from, getting better than, that 8%, 10%, along those lines on the conversion rate, to me, I think that's where you can kind of see the key for both of these teams. And I know you've already hinted where they try to get that perfect shot instead of, just letting it flow. And yeah, you may not get it on the first shot, but you may get a rebound, for that second attempt on there. But for San Antonio's aspect, that's one thing that I've really started focusing on is that connection, because 56%, I don't care what league, what level you're in, that's bad.
Yeah, that's not good.
When the rest of the league's at 70% and you're 14%. And true, some of the teams have already played one game, but still it's when you're that far off from the norm, that has to be a concern.
So I have to, I'm just going to ask this because, like you said, these San Antonio has the potential to be that. I mean, in all reality, San Antonio, looking at the team, their tactics, how they play, and everything like that, San Antonio realistically could go on a run to be a USL champion this year. Is
They have the
that
talent. Yeah, I think
they have the talent
they have the
and
talent. Phoenix, I know they lost to Tampa Bay in Tampa, and I don't think I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't think they're as good as Phoenix fans think, but I do think that they are a good team. For that here out east, I want to see Tampa get pushed. Playing in Tampa is not easy to do. Louisville's a quality team, although they've got a new coach, sort of. It sounds like he's going to run kind of the same system as
it's
before.
pretty similar.
So I think it's still wide open. But I do think out west it starts with Phoenix. And I think San Antonio is one of the teams that's possible there. Sacramento's, kind of in the discussion. Orange County, got off to a slow start, but that's only their first game. So, we got to see a couple of games what they put in. But I think out west, like I said here, they have the talent, but I will say this, if the finals go through Phoenix, that play, especially if they're 100%, and especially if they bring out the dollar beer nights, those are it's a magical place. I've been there on one of those nights. Phoenix is tough to play because of the heat, but just with the pressure that they play, and San Antonio Phoenix games historically have always been great games, with the exception of the one that I went to in Phoenix, which we got rolled, and it was Diego Restrepo's last game in Phoenix, or for San Antonio FC, because afterwards he got into it with a fan on social media, so he was magically he had an injury. So,
Strange how that works.
But no, it's just, to me, out west, it starts with Phoenix, and just like I think in the East, it starts with Tampa. I don't until somebody can stand up to those two, that it's hard to disagree. But talent wise, San Antonio, and I say Birmingham Legion as well, I think they have the talent to do it. The question, to me, it's more the question, can they get the consistency? That's the issue. On a one game schedule, I think they can beat anybody, but can they do it on a consistent basis?
So let's just say they have one of those nights where this is championship level San Antonio. San Antonio, let's just say we're leaving Saturday night, and the Legion fans, the few who are able to make the trip out to San Antonio, they're leaving disappointed because it was a 4-0 loss to San Antonio. What does San Antonio do to create that championship team finally?
They turned the ball over, or they created the pressure, converted on the attacks, was able to get out and press most of the game. It's that simple for San Antonio. If they can pressure you where you make some mistakes, and because they're not going to hold the ball, they are going to go at you. They're going to go direct. They're going to try to go over you. They're going to try to score as quick as they can. And if they can do that, and if they can be successful, it could be, to me, this game could be a 4-2 type of a game, very easy, 4-3 type of game. I don't know if San Antonio's defense is good enough to keep Legion off the board. I think Matt Cardone is a good goalkeeper. And the defense is the question, just because they haven't played. We haven't had a consistent back line, and I don't expect this. I'm hoping this game is different than last week's game, because I don't want Doyle as the right back, because could you imagine Fleming's going against Doyle on the wing? Think about it,
man. What we would have done for that.
And it's not that he's a bad player. He doesn't have the speed to be able to handle that. It's putting him in a bad position.
Well, Legion fans would have given last year to have a junior Flemings on the team against Memphis. Man, I mean, that would have been so magical. But you did bring up something, and I kind of waited towards the end because I wanted to talk about this.
Okay.
And this is something that this is a very, I guess, touchy subject depending on who you are. But this is Junior Fleming's first game away from home. And this is going to be going back to the West, where with what happened last year rings a whole lot more true than before because they remember the Phoenix teams. And they're
I don't think it'll be a factor though.
I mean, it's what do you think from fans? Do you think fans are going to remember?
I don't think so. Will there be some calls? Sure. But I think he's going to get that no matter where he goes. But it's not like him going to Phoenix.
Okay.
It's not like him going to, San Diego or anything along those lines. And that's not to say anything good or bad, about our fan base or, their fan bases. But there will be a few people that will probably make comments, but I think overall on the fan base overall, I don't think it'll be an issue for that. Now, Junior has a habit of, since he comes from the Phoenix, of diving a little bit. We'll say
he's done better.
That'll probably be what flares up the crowd a little bit more. But no, I don't, because you got to walk such a fine line when it comes to that. And I think most fan bases will kind of stay away from it because it is a touchy subject. And if Colin Martin's okay with it, if he's made amends, and you can question, I question whether he really made amends or not, or if Colin Martin just took the high road and said, okay, hey, I don't want you not to be able to, support your family and stuff like that. But no, I don't think for us it'll be an issue. Number one, because it's, no offense to Legion fans, you're not a rival. It's, hey, this is a new team coming in. Hey, it's cool, along those lines. Now if he was, let's say, with, Austin, El Paso, or, somebody else, a rival like that, then I think it gets looked at a lot closer. But to be honest with you, I would be surprised if majority of the fans knew who he was. Now the supporter groups will know, and we'll probably hear some singing and chanting possibly from there, but I don't, especially coming off with what happened in Loudon, I think for fans to a player specific, you've got to be careful, just because it, and I know what he did was wrong and way wrong, and he's very lucky to be playing this year, in my opinion, because I thought he would be sitting out a year, not just the 6 games, but I thought it would take a year off for him to be able to come back to USL for another team to sign him. But no, it's just, I don't, how do you think? I just think after, especially what happened last night with the topic there, and we're in the South, in Texas, and I hate saying, and I don't mean that in a negative way.
I mean,
it's different than if you're in California, or it's just a different environment.
I mean, I totally get it. When Junior signed with Legion, there were a lot of comments that came in that said, of course, it was Alabama. So I totally understand what you mean by it's the South comment, because if he were to sign with somewhere that was like maybe like, I don't know, Hartford, Connecticut, maybe there might have been a little bit more leniency than someone who's in the deep South like Alabama. But I totally agree with you. And I agree that he got lucky. I think personally, what I think should have happened, I think he should have been out for the year personally.
I think a year, yes, because that's what happened with Romeo Parks.
Mm-hmm.
He was out a year. Now, he kicked somebody flat in the chest, a physical attack on somebody. And, but in a way you could say this was, just as bad, you attack somebody's sexuality and along those lines. And that's very personal, along those lines, even if you didn't mean, quote unquote, didn't mean to, you gotta be smarter than that. It's, it's a different environment. And, I'm getting close to 50. things that I heard my grandparents say, I couldn't dream of saying now, because number one, I'd either probably be, get punched out, or, you know, just, entirely, totally shamed, to where, I'd lose my job nowadays compared to, back then. So,
I mean,
as a society, we've grown, and that's a good thing.
it is a good thing. And I totally get that. Me as a high schooler, some of the things that I said around my buddies, like, I'm just glad there wasn't a camera on me. And that's
No joke.
and that's kind of one of those things that you kind of sit there and you see what happened with Junior, and it's like, it was wrong. And I do think he should be punished. But I mean, there are redemptions, and San Antonio fans should know this as much as anybody. Having a guy like Mikey Lopez on the team,
Oh
I
yeah.
think should be more than enough to say this is a guy who can get Junior on track. The amount of resources they put around Junior for him to fix what he did. I mean, for example, I heard this example a while back and it really stuck with me because of Junior. I mean, this is kind of gone off topic, but I think this is a topic that needs to be talked about personally. Um, Michael Vick was convicted of fighting dogs, which to most of us with animals could never imagine seeing our pet of one of our family members being used as a way to make money like that. That's just unthinkable. But my great grandmother, rest her soul, she had a dog that was there on the farm because that's what they did, because that dog had a job, and that dog was a dog. It didn't go inside because it was a dog. And it was almost offensive that that dog was anywhere near her because it's a dog and she's a person. And so to someone like that who didn't grow up with a dog being a family member, it grew up as it had a purpose. It was there to fight. It was there to do a job on the ranch, blah, 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 blah. They see that stuff as different. And Michael Vick got arrested and he was thrown in jail, and he was rightfully, punished for what he did. You can't just plead ignorance. But recently, Michael Vick, he went through all these classes, he went through training, and he was able to get his daughter a dog. And it's been all accounts that that dog has been nothing but family to them, that he feels a lot of remorse for what he did. And I think some similar could happen for Junior, where you say something out of ignorance and you get punished, and rightfully so. But he should have the chance to reform himself, because it's possible. It's totally possible. I think about the things I said when I was in high school, and I'll put myself out on the line there. Hey, future employers, if you're listening to this, I'm just throwing this out there. I was young. I was stupid. I said things that were not too dissimilar to what Junior said. And now, not
Yes,
too long, we all have.
we
And
all
now
have it. But
I
to
look
me,
at
I go ahead.
I look at my little brother, who within the last year or two recently came out to me as being gay. And I think about the things I said back then, and I'm like, oh my God, what if someone said that to my brother? I'd kill him. And so it just makes me hurt knowing that I was ignorant enough to say that. And I'm glad that Junior has been put into a place that he can grow, because if he doesn't grow from this, then get him out. And I said this before, if he doesn't grow from the position that he is in right now with Mikey, with the LGBTQ plus groups that are around, and just a great fan base that's willing to cultivate a positive energy around him, then you should be done. But I do think he has a wonderful chance to grow into something special with a situation like that.
And to me, it comes in, and I know we're in the age of social media. To me, it came down to Colin Martin. If Colin Martin can forgive him for what he said, and how he took it, and hopefully they've had one-on-one communications. Number one, to be able to kind of address it. But to me, if he said, hey, he's okay with it as a fan, yeah, I don't like it. Will I probably boo him on Saturday night? It'll be more on field than for that. But just we've got to be a more forgiving society. I think I think as a society we've got to where I draw this line here. If you cross that line, you can't ever go back, which unfortunately we're humans. We're going to make mistakes. That's how we grow. You've got to be able to, forgive and accept, and that's how people grow. And I've made several mistakes in my life, and, thankfully I've always had somebody that's, said, hey, don't do it again. So, better, or you better learn to know better. And to me, it comes down to as simple as that. Now, I'm not in their shoes, so how I view it is completely different than, if you're part of the LGBTQ community. But that's not for me to decide that, I know for me, personally, he's been punished. If Colin Martin said, hey, it's okay, for me, why am I going to cast judgments just because, I know when we went to school, we said things that you couldn't even imagine to say now.
Yeah.
So, it goes back to society, and you take last night as an example, with the Loudoun game. With 5 years ago, would that have even been an issue? I doubt it.
Not the same as it would have been now.
Now it's, you have people complaining that USL didn't come out quick enough, and they came out the following morning, with the response saying, hey, this is, we're looking into it. There was an issue. Before, you wouldn't, you'd have been lucky if it was days before you heard something.
Yeah.
So as a society, we are improving. And, I think, supporters groups from Phoenix to San Diego to, Oakland, here in San Antonio, I know, Richmond, Charlotte, in St. Louis or Louisville. I can't forget Louisville. St. Louis, even though they're still not in the league there, the St. Louligans. I think I've seen some stuff from your guys' supporters groups. Sorry, I'm missing their name here.
Right.
I know Tulsa's, the Lunatics up in Tulsa, for their here have all grown and helped build a better environment where we police that action a lot more. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen in Loudoun, is that, the people that were there say, hey, this guy was the one that's wrong. I know here in South Texas, we have a P word chant from Mexico, very similar, we've worked very hard to prevent from coming in. And RGV had issues on it. I think it was their first game, but their last, they put a clamp down it.
We've had to do the same. We have a group of Colombians who they know how to party, bro. Like, they go hard, but they tried starting it up, and we're like, hey,
can't
guys,
do that now.
like
it's not accepted. So
yeah. Also, it just completely off topic, but Atlanta United 5-0, and
they got another one. Is that what they're showing here?
FC Tulsa just got a red card. I mean, this is tough. This is the traveling to out of Oklahoma. I mean, granted, this is also Atlanta playing very well, but that's tough to see. But to kind of switch the topic, because I do feel like that's a conversation that's been needing to have happened. And especially for Junior going on his first away day, what should Junior expect? I mean, luckily, he is going to a place like San Antonio, which we have two players that were beloved by San Antonio fans. And, a lot of the San Antonio supporters will probably be like, okay, Mikey has him underneath his wing. Things are probably okay. So, but I do feel like it's a conversation that needed to happen. And I'm really glad that we had it.
It'll be interesting. I'm interested to see more in division how it goes. Like Louisville, that's one. Tulsa, I think, is a very interesting one as well, although they don't have the large fan base. But Louisville, I think, would be the one to kind of look out for in your division.
Louisville, and assuming their fans go to matches, because I can't go without having a cheap shot at them. Memphis fans, I mean, just because it's rivalry, especially, I think they're going to be more likely to dig stuff out. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But I think there's two sides to it. There's the social issue aspect of it, and then there's the fan rivalry, side of it here. To me, I think the reason why I say Louisville will be very, very interesting is because they're like the Louligans. They're like, in Phoenix with the Banditos and 602, where their supporter groups are out there and they're one of the well-known ones. Especially with the Blue City Ladies, I think is what it is. I forget the exact name, but I think it's
Lavender Legion.
Yeah, where they've come out very very strong on social media and stuff like that. So to me, that's where I think it'd be very interesting. Like for San Antonio, though, if you're going to start out at a place, I think it's a good opportunity for him to get tested. Will there be some calls? Sure, but I don't think it would be as bad. Especially if he stayed west. And if he went to anywhere in California, I have a feeling would be brutal for him. Even Los Dos, I have a feeling there would be a crowd that would turn out against him for that.
So let's just kind of get to sort of the end of this, which this has been an awesome conversation, and I would love to keep talking all night because this has just been an awesome conversation and super fun to have. But we've talked about what San Antonio needs to do in order to win and win big, to be that championship side that they can be. If kind of two questions, I guess. One is, if Legion were to come in and just, let's say they win 2-0, what went wrong for San Antonio?
To me, probably what happened last week, where they couldn't get the ball out from the back line. And to me, they had Legion had 75% of the possession for that, because you got to have the ball to score. And so far, San Antonio, they've been living around that 60-40 split, which I think is fine. But when you get down to
30 or whatever,
30%, you can't make any mistakes at that point. And when I looked at the halftime numbers last week, it was just, you could tell it was an off night. And you're going to have those. It sucks it was against RGV, don't get me wrong, but let's face it, you guys didn't exactly blow the door off of Memphis, which no offense, I was kind of surprised, just because that was Memphis's first game, although you guys kind of didn't know what they would have. But still, I was shocked, and I know they've got an awesome goalkeeper, unlike last year with Tim Howard, and I love Tim Howard, but shouldn't have been playing last year, buddy.
No,
no offense, man.
No.
But I loved you. Love you as a U.S. men's national team, as a Memphis 901. No, and even as a Colorado Rapids, the last couple of years, I was like, you need to retire. So.
Yeah, he definitely started living on legacy for a while there, but
but no, to me, for San Antonio, it comes down to number one, for the defense. Can they get the ball up to the offense? Because I think if they get the ball up to the forwards and the attacking midfield, I'm confident San Antonio is going to score. If they can't, it could be a long night. And the other interesting fact or history when it comes to San Antonio is if they get a 2-0 lead, if they can not take the pedal off, they've got to blown the most 2-0 leads in the USL in recent history, and maybe not all the way to losses, but 2 years ago they blew a 2-0 lead up a man against RGV and they ended up tying, and then in the last game of the year where they had to win to get into the playoffs, they were up 2-0 up a man against Colorado Springs at Toyota Field and ended up giving up late goal to tie it. So if you're down 2-0, that's the sweet spot against San Antonio, it seems like.
We got them right where we want them.
You got them right where you want them, especially if you get that next goal. But no, just that's just one of the, this is what, year 6 of SAFC, and I've never seen a fan base more nervous than when they're up 2-0. And they always say 2-0 is the worst score to be up in soccer for a reason. But just here in San Antonio, especially at Toyota Field, we've seen it way too many times. To where it's, it's almost like a no hitter. You don't talk about it now. It's just, okay, we got to get that next goal.
That's hopefully we don't go down 2-0, but hey, now that I know if we are down 2-0, we still got a shot.
You still got a 50-50 shot.
So realistically, what are you expecting from?
I think it's going to be a 3-2 game. I think both offenses are going to bring it. I think 3-2. Obviously I'm going to lean more to San Antonio. I could see Legion kind of doing a 2-2, 3-2 draw. I do think there's going to be goals scored. I just think the talent on the offensive side is much better. And I think with San Antonio's defense, there's some goals that can be had just because they haven't had the consistent time, with it. But it also depends on the lineup. If PC's not in, depending on if they have Doyle at right back again, I'm not going to lie to you, that scares me. It's
very exciting. Very excited for Legion fans.
I know you guys. I know we transferred him from Memphis last year, and the only game that he played in was the playoff game, which I think he scored a goal, but it got called back for some sort of mystery call, we'll say, and then of course New Mexico advanced on the shoulder ball, in extra time to pull out the win. But yeah, Doyle's been solid, and like I said here, I think, as you mentioned with him, pairing him with Kamiri, and we also have a new guy that just came in from Joaquin Varela, came in from Argentina. He played some first division in Argentina, and he got loaned in from a team in the second division, who's another big body. Either one of those next to Kamiri, I think will be very solid. But if he's out on the left back, that scares me. I'm not going to lie to you. Against your guys' speed, it's because RGV doesn't have speed. Like when we watch the RGV match, RGV's got 3 wins, yes, but they're not a team that you look at and say, okay, hey, they're a great team. Now, if you talk to their fan base, it's a different discussion, just like with anybody, because they're 3-0. But if you look at them, they've won the first 2 games 1-0 with some good goals. You can consider them a little bit lucky. They beat us 2-1 for it here, but I don't think they've quite faced a team like Legion as of yet with the speed up top. So I'm interested to see how that's going to be.
I think it's very interesting because you said they haven't played a team like Legion, but I think Legion have kind of played a team like San Antonio in the sense that they've played a Louisville City side who is, really tough. So Legion had that experience of going away, going against a great fan base and going against a great team at that. So maybe we're a little bit more, battle tested than San Antonio, albeit very, very early. So at the very beginning of the year, I wrote it down that I thought it was going to be a draw for San Antonio and Birmingham Legion, but that's because, like you said, these teams are mirror images of each other. And so you think that's going to be a pretty even match, but the closer I've got to it, the more I think that we're going to have a great defense. I think we're going to have a great defense, but the more I worry about our offense. So I still think it's going to be a draw, but I think it's going to be one of those matches that everybody kind of looked at the beginning and were like, these offenses are going to eat each other alive. The defenses are just going to have to
step up.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those classics of everybody says, oh, this is going to be one of those matches where 8 goals are scored. It's going to be a 4-4 classic, but it's probably in all reality going to end up like 1-1. And both teams are going to be like, well, that sucked.
and I think the reason why we say that is when you look at the goalies, Matt Cardone and Van Oekel, they're good goalies, but I don't think you would ever say they're great goalies.
Matt Van Oekel you can definitely tell he was an MLS goalkeeper at one point.
So, but if you look at kind of his consistency, Even when he was with Tampa before you guys, right? If memory.
No, he was actually at
OKC?
Energy,
Yeah, OKC.
and he got injured. So his last full year was with Real Salt Lake and Real Monarchs.
So to me, like I like Van Oekel just because of his facial hair for that hair and the designs. And I know we talked about that on Monday, but to me, like I said here, I think advantage-wise goalkeeping, and I love Matt Cardone, but he hasn't been an MLS goaltender. And most likely he's not, he's what, mid-20s, mid to late 20s now. Obviously, most likely he's not going to be a MLS goaltender, barring getting a loan opportunity like Logan Kessler did with El Paso. So I think you guys might have a slight advantage when it comes to that, with him. But I just like I said, I think the offenses when they're on, just because of how creative and the speed and when I've watched Birmingham when they're on, the goals that they create, there's really not a lot that the goalies can do, because usually they're fairly, I want to say open goals, but they're goals where the goalie really didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Unless you're a world-class goalkeeper, which if you're that, unless you're David Ochoa, you're not in USL. So
yeah, this match is, the thing is, and what usually after I have these conversations with people, because that's part of the reason I do this, is because I can watch as much film as I want, but in the end, I'm not going to know a team as well as their fans. Mm-hmm. And by the end, I can say, hey, I'm pretty comfortable with this. This is what's going to happen. After talking with Benton, I was like, oh yeah, Louisville City is probably going to beat Legion pretty handily. And then you watch the match, it's like, well, what just happened? And then, talking with John, I was like, Legion's probably going to beat Indy. And it's like, well, that didn't happen.
I don't think Indy's as good as Indy to me is like San Diego. I don't think they're as good as people think they are.
I don't think
they lost a lot of talent. You can't replace that much talent.
No, and I think that Legion beat themselves more than Indy beat Legion. Mm-hmm. But I said at the beginning of the year that I thought that Tulsa was better than Indy, but I think Indy's schedule is much easier because most of their games are so local, and just the way they never have to go. I think they only have 2 away games in a row once throughout the season, and everything else is home away, home away. They don't really have a real home away stint, which is pretty lucky. But
that also can work against them though, because you're not getting that long home stretch together.
That's true. I mean, it's just a very interesting thing that it kind of happened, but I'm not a big believer in Indy, but they also beat us. So what do I know? But
let me ask you a question though. If that was a normal pitch, and I think on your podcast, you already mentioned this, but if that was a normal pitch and it wasn't the Sandbox, I think Legion beats them.
I think Legion at least score. And from there, we can decide on whether it would have been a 1-1 draw, if it would have been a 2-1 win for Legion. I think we at least score. But I think there were other factors going on in that night besides just a sandy pitch. I think there was a lot of.
I think you mentioned the team was flat, and that's very putting flat. The words kindly.
They were very flat, and they were very. There was a lot of selfishness going on, and that's really not how this team works, because obviously it's a team game, but there's some teams that you can afford having a guy go off by himself, like LA Galaxy. They just kind of said, okay, Zlatan, you do your thing, man. We'll just sit back and watch. That works for a guy like Zlatan and a team like LA Galaxy. That doesn't work for Birmingham Legion. That's not how this team was constructed, because this team was truly a team that was constructed. So that was hard to watch. But, we go through all those, and I talked to Blake, who is the voice of, I dubbed him the voice of Birmingham, but, you
had on last week, right?
Yeah. And I talked to him and I was like, well, this team's still a mystery, but I still think Legion pull out the win because talent is just better for the Legion. And lo and behold, talent prevailed, because, Memphis' back line just could not keep up. But this is one of the few times that I'm about to end an interview with a post-match preview or a pre-match preview, and I have no idea. I'm just as confused coming in as I am leaving because I understand the San Antonio team a lot better. I understand the strengths. I understand how you guys are going to beat us. But it sounds like both teams are not doing at all what they should be at this point of the year. I mean, our offense should be doing a lot better. You know, a lot of our passes should be connecting better and stuff like that. And it sounds like it's kind of the same for San Antonio.
Yes.
So it just seems like which team's going to ride the ship first, and are they going to ride it this match, or is it just going to happen later on? Which is why I'm so excited to watch this match because I have no clue what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think for this match, it's I think this is probably looking at the USL schedule for this week. This is the one that I've had circled. You know, just on Saturday night here. I know probably the other one that gets highlighted, you know, especially from USL side, is the Loyal traveling to Louisville City. But I think the San Antonio FC Birmingham Legion, especially if San Antonio would have won last week, this match would have been probably the highlight of the week, you know, for that here. But you know, San Antonio lost, which probably takes a little bit of the light off of it. But like you, like I said here, I'm excited for this one here. You know, I'm hoping, you know, Mikey Lopez is able to come out and play, and Zachary Harva is supposed, you know, hopefully he'll make the trip, because both of them were, you know, important roles in San Antonio's 6 years so far. But like you, to me, this is a coin flip. You know, there's games that I go in, like last week, I thought San Antonio was going to roll RGV, just because I thought how they could be, and then, you know, we saw PC was out and a couple other injuries that popped up, and of course that's the wild card, and that's the hard thing to be able to tell you. If San Antonio was healthy and we knew, hey, we've got PC, if we have, you know, DePlane, if we have Maloney, you know, and if we, you know, knew how Jose was going to work with Patino, because they haven't played yet, you know, outside of that second half in RGV, and they were already down 2-0 at that point. And even still, they ended up getting a goal. But to me, it'll be interesting to kind of see which San Antonio team steps up, you know, especially against, you know, it might, you know, as we discussed, a mirror image against each other on how they like to play. And it's an East versus West, which, you know, as a USL fan, you have to be excited about, because prior to this year, we didn't get to see that. So I'm excited, and look forward to listening to your recap early next week. You know, hopefully for you, it's not a good recap. No offense. So, but no, it's always a pleasure talking with you, Kaylor.
Man, also, I'm really, if you're not listening or if you're not watching this on YouTube, you should be sub to the YouTube, whoever's listening to this. But Harry has his cat in the room with him, and I've been hearing him, he or she, meowing.
Mr. Snuggles
meowing. And this whole time I thought it was our cat in the living room. And I was like, what is he doing in the living room? Like, no one else is home. Like, what's going on? So
I had him locked out, and he's like, let me in. Because I have a chair right here. He's basically, you know, he's like my co-podcaster. He'll sit there, and then every once in a while he want to be cat, you know, or be petted. And, you know, he's been in the video a couple of times for that here. So, but yeah, Mr. Snuggles keeps me out of trouble.
I'm glad we got a cameo by Mr. Snuggles. I'm a big fan of that. It's my parents have a cat that was named by my brother and sister when they were very, very young, and they named him Mr. Kitty. So like I'm totally with the name, man. I'm totally on board with it. I mean, I don't think this podcast can get any better. We had a cameo from the cat. We talked about all things Legion and San Antonio, and we even got a little early preview to this week in the Central, because Atlanta United 2 decided that this is the week that they were going to destroy Tulsa for whatever reason. So,
yeah, what other big ones you guys got this week? Indy and Sporting Kansas City. I think you would expect Indy to be able to pull that out.
I mean, especially against whatever happened against Colorado Springs, which they're a fine team, but they're not 4-0 winning kind of team. I know they got an early red, but most of those goals came before that anyway. That was hard. That was a hard watch. San Diego Loyal. I'm excited to see how Louisville City does against San Diego. Let's, especially since they're playing Louisville City at home. So, or Louisville City is playing at home. And we kind of get another match, which is going to be Atlanta United 2. This is the first time that we're having a team feature twice. And it's going to be against Memphis 901. So
you could have Atlanta United 2 leading your division.
There is a chance that Atlanta United 2 will be leading the division, and
which you guys face. Well, you guys have the doubleheader next week too, right? You get Oklahoma City and Atlanta United 2. So
yep. This is going to be this is the first stretch that we're going to start seeing teams come up 2-3 times in 1 week, and then it's going to be a really interesting conversation of what the heck just happened, because Sporting Kansas City is playing Los Dos tonight, and then you have them playing Indy later. So we're going to find out, is Los Dos really that good? Is Indy that good? Can Atlanta United 2 beat Memphis 901 5-0, or is this going to be one of those times that a 2 team shows up, just drops it on some team and then just cowers away into a hole because the senior team looked at it and said, hey, I want some of that, and just pluck up some players, which happens. Man, I was not prepared to see a 5-0 thing come across my Fought Mob app when it came to
for Atlanta United 2. Nope.
That's quite the shocker for me. But
that's a statement.
Yeah. So, hey, you're getting an early this week in this. This is the first time I've had someone join me for This Week in the Central on it wasn't supposed to be, but here we are.
No, I that's the reason why I do the United Soccer FC show is because this SA Soccer Roundtable is mainly San Antonio SAFC. We got SA Athenians in the UWS. Especially high school season. Rafa, is really into that. So we go deep into the high schools here in San Antonio and even South Texas. And then of course, for the lower amateur or lower leagues. We used to do quite a bit of UPSL, but UPSL kind of fell apart here.
You hate to hear that.
It's just lower league soccer. It's drama. So
yeah,
just it is what it is. I've come to accept that it's hard to, in my opinion, when you don't have a federation that kind of manages things and is real top heavy, I'll just say, and lets the lower leagues do what they want. It's a wild west. And
yeah,
but that's a whole different podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast. Well, Harry, man, I really can't thank you enough. And if anybody wants to continue listening to you, they absolutely should, because I love reading your takes on Twitter. That's one of the reasons. That's kind of the joy of my Twitter account as well. It's like, well, that was really good. And then I'll follow that up with an absolutely horrible tweet, which if you want to follow Harry, it's Ramen Cole,
RAMINCOL, right? At Ramen Call.
Yes. RAMINCOL. I really do recommend you following him. And United Soccer FC is a great show. I love it. And then SA Soccer Roundtable, which is just a fun listen. It's 3 guys chilling, talking about the game before and talking about all things San Antonio, which I definitely listened to a little bit of it to prepare myself for this. And I feel like it helped out a lot. And it's really always interesting hearing perspectives from other fan bases, because it's like, well, I think I know this about this team. And then I'll listen to them and they're like, yeah, what you're saying is completely wrong. I have no idea where you got that idea from. So it's nice hearing another team's perspective.
Well, that's, if you follow me, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I'll just say. I'll usually put them on in the background while I'm at work. And of course, if something piques my interest, I'll rewind it and listen closely. But it's good background, and to me it's sports radio.
Yeah.
But to me, you can pick up so much listening to podcasts, like yours, Hammering Down, or just so many of the others out there that put out. Because let's be honest, at this level, we're not doing it to make money.
No.
And I know somebody posted on there, well, are you trying to make money? I was like, no, it's because, you've got an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a week that, you put into it. It's a passion. And, obviously I'm nearing 50. So obviously I'm not going to be turning into the next, major sportscaster or anything like that. So, it's just a fun way to kind of, for me to give back to the game. And, I never, I played one year as a kid. So, my soccer playing isn't really anything. And I only got into it when the Scorpions came around. So about 10 years ago. And, I've switched it from, probably substituted, baseball for soccer now at this point. And, where, soccer and the NFL are probably my two top passions when it comes to sports. So
how it is for me in football. I mean, soccer and football have completely switched. I will watch baseball and soccer all day long. And then I'll see I'll go to Alabama football games because, well, I do marching band and, it's a fun experience in person, but, I'll see the game come on TV and I'm like, that's cool. I mean, that's
well, you're
fine.
watching professional ball with Alabama. So
yeah, they don't get paid.
Quote unquote air quotes. Because I can tell, well, I think if you go to any major university at that level, there's a scholarship and I have a feeling if the NCAA wanted to look closely enough, they would find stuff at every single program. Even here in San Antonio at UTSA, UAB, you could find stuff where people are getting extra advantages, and we'll just leave it at that here. But to me, I think they should be paid, just because if you're paying coach multi-million dollars a year, why can't the players get a portion of the pie? If the money's that big. But
I mean, Legion has a guy, Jaden Cervania, who is a Puerto Rican national at only 19, 20. No, he's younger than that. He's 18 or 19, but he is a guy from Birmingham, and he is playing for the Puerto Rican national team, and he forgoed his college scholarship to be a professional player for Legion, which
nice.
A lot of fans were like, what are you doing? Like, you need to take the scholarship. And then other fans were like, I don't know, man, he's getting paid now.
Well, the key on this, and this is why I think USL has a little bit of advantage compared to MLS. And we've had one player to do it and possibly another if Jose Gallegos does it. If you get paid, if you sign your professional contract, the goal is to go over to Europe. And obviously you're not talking about, the big teams. Like we had Ethan Bryant went over to a team, I want to say in Belgium, for that here. And it was a second or third division team, but he was making just short of 6 digits, just short of that on a 2 or 3 year contract over there. Which, for people who don't know, even MLS players that are on fringe, that fringe level aren't getting close to 3 digits. They're probably closer to 60, 70,000 for MLS. And I think USL's there's such a wide spectrum, on the pay scale. And I'm hoping that the USL Players Association and USL headquarters finally get that deal across the lines, because it was supposed to be across the line at the start of the season. We're now 4 weeks in and nobody said anything.
I mean, I think someone like Jaden Cervania, him foregoing his college to get paid is smart, especially since, his brother, Braden, I always want, or is it Brandon? I think it's Brandon, actually. His brother, Brandon, is been called up for the U.S. men's national team. He's always been on that list of players who's going to make it. He's a FC Dallas guy he's playing in the top flight of Belgium right now. And if you look at Brandon and you look at Jaden's easily the better player already. So you see a guy like that where he has the potential to go play top flight, and maybe not in one of the big 5 teams, or big 5 leagues like, Ligue 1 or what is Mr. Snuggles doing?
The
condensation. But a guy like Jaden Cervania could absolutely make it somewhere like Belgium or go to another league like that, which, it'd be nice to see. And I think that's really the future because you see, I mean, heck, Orange County is sending their guys over to Rangers
That have
and
never played.
they never played, but they're getting the opportunity to be
Yes, getting
seen.
opportunities.
They're getting the opportunity to be seen, which is all that matters in the world of soccer because once you're seen, you're known.
Yep.
And that's
And
all
that's
that matters.
That's why to me, Jose Gallegos having that 2-week trial over at Bayern Munich and Barcelona. And do I think he gets signs by those clubs? No. But do I think he gets the opportunity to go over to Europe? Yes. And to me, that's for San Antonio off the pitch. Excuse me. That's the big question is what happens with Jose, because he's fringe MLS, or not MLS, U.S. men's national team talent as far as, at the U20 range at this point. If you're San Antonio FC and if you have the opportunity to sell him, you have to do it, even though it may sting this year because they had Christian Pirano last year. And I think part of it was pandemic related. They didn't sell him, so he walked on a free. And rumored reports is they did have offers from MLS to be able to sell him. But I think for Pirano, I don't think he ever wanted to get stuck into the MLS system because it's
hard to get out.
Just hard to get out. And I think he always wanted to go to Europe. And I think for SAFC, if they would have had the opportunity last July, to be able to move him, they would have. Unfortunately, COVID happened and number one, he was hurt, so he didn't really get the time at the beginning of the year. And then, things didn't really resume until mid-July or, after that window. So for San Antonio, even USL overall, it'll be interesting to kind of follow with what happens with Jose Gallegos in the next month or so, you figure, because I think England starts, their window opens July 1st.
July 1st.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to kind of see where Jose goes, because as a SAFC fan, it's one of those, it's awesome to be able to say, hey, we've got that type of a talent, but then it'll be awesome to say, hey, he was sold to Team X over in Europe. But then you're like, oh, that leaves a hole in the line.
Yeah.
So
that's how a lot of Legion fans feel with a guy like Bruno Lapa, right? So Bruno Lapa, if you're a San Antonio fan still listening, this far in, hey, shout out to you if you're still listening. This kind of happened on our other podcast is that Harry and I just kept talking because it's just a fun conversation. I don't know if other people are enjoying it as much as I am, but I'm having a great time. So we're just going to keep it rolling because this is my podcast, dang it, and I get to do what I want. But Bruno Lapa, he is easily starter MLS talent. Mm-hmm. He is playing so far above his pay grade right now. I mean, USL is just, it's not good enough for him. And that's just the truth. But no team wanted to draft him, and no team out of Wake Forest, and no team wants to pick him up at MLS.
He's short, right? I think you mentioned he's the one that's.
No, he's not short. For MLS, he's Brazilian.
It's the green card. Yeah, that's right.
He's Brazilian, and no team wants to deal with that. No team wants to lose a guy who, while Bruno does what he does very well, and he could easily be a starter in the MLS, you can also find other American starters that do what Bruno does. And that sucks for a guy like Bruno. And so we're very happy that we signed him onto a multi-year deal, because that means if a team out of Europe wants to, or maybe even if a team from Brazil wants to bring him back home to Brazil, whoever wants to sign him, they're going to have to pay for him, which at that point, Legion's just going to be making money off him, which the last thing I want is Bruno to be gone. I love that guy to death. He was one of my first ever interviews on here, and he is easily one of the nicest humans on the planet. And he gives 100% all the time. I love the man to death. Wherever he goes, I will follow. But also, it if a team wants to come in and, like you said, pay for a guy like that, especially in the USL, you have to take it. Money is not abundant around here. It's just the truth. So if a team's willing to come in and give you a transfer fee, like Miami FC did for Bolu Akinyode, I mean, they gave us 15K for Bolu Akinyode, and there's not many times a transfer fee gets reported out of USL.
Right.
But which means if a team's willing to pay, you kind of have to take it. So,
and that's why San Antonio is catching grief for Pirano's, and I've heard on both sides whether it was real or not real, but for San Antonio, supposedly because they got the offer and they didn't take it, it kind of looks a little bit bad, on USL, because in San Antonio in general, because if what was rumored, because it was close to a six-digit deal, 90 to 100,000, depending on how things broke, is what the rumor was. That kind of sets that market, for quality players to go from USL to MLS, where right now I think there's still 25, 30, 40,000 along those lines here. But if somebody can break that ceiling, and we're seeing with Robinho, I think is what it is in Salt Lake City. He's the guy that had the bike 2 weeks ago.
what a beauty.
That played with Loyal last year. Ruben Robinho, I think is what it is. Rubio. That I don't know if you haven't checked out, check out the bike. I think it was 2 weeks ago that he did. It's probably a goal of the year candidate for MLS already. So
yeah,
lots of fun, and like I said, I'm excited about USL. If I was Jake Edwards, the only thing that I would be doing would be trying to start the pro rel between League One and USL Championship, because I think once you do that, it opens up so many different avenues, and I think the next TV deal will be a lot more attractive. Not that I don't love being on ESPN Plus most of the time. Last week sucked, but I think that was more an RGV or down, or a Vista issue than ESPN Plus itself. But I think if you do that, it puts pressure on MLS to either adapt or look at possibly, it opens up additional doors for USL.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty sure Jake Edwards went on, the Sirius XM channel recently and did say that ProRel is
What he wants to do, but
it's something that he wants to do. But I mean, it doesn't seem like it's USL dragging their feet. It sounds like it's US Soccer dragging their feet.
No, I think for US, because it'll still be closed, and that's the thing. Even if they have ProRel, it'll because let's be honest, USL is a closed league, and will at least until US Soccer opens things up. But I think it opens up, because NISA is going to do it at some point if they can get the foundation, if they can get stabilized. NISA is going to try to do ProRel, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because that'll push USL to do it as well. But to me, I think if USL can do it, because League One's 12 teams now?
Yeah.
And I think this off season, this is getting way ahead of things. This offseason is going to be a transition year, because you got some of the two teams that I think are going to drop down to the MLS Reserve League that they were hoping to start this year, but due to the pandemic didn't. I think that's why you lost Union 2 last year, and you lost Timbers 2. So it'll be interesting to see if you lose a couple of more of the MLS 2 teams here, not only in USL Championship, but possibly in USL League One. You've got Monterey that's coming on next year. You've got
Queensboro
that's coming on next year. I think there's probably still going to be a team or two that maybe drops down, like what North Carolina did, for that here. And to me, that's a shocker if you haven't paid attention to League One. They're the only team that's played that hasn't had a point yet, so that's kind of a little bit shocking to drop from USL Championship to League One and struggle.
They lost a lot of good players, man. They've lost
talent. Well, they wanted to go young. That's what they're doing.
they wanted to go young and they wanted to save that money. It seems like they definitely that ownership, because I'm pretty sure it's all the same ownership group. They really want to put a lot of money into Courage,
The NWSL. Yep.
and so that kind of takes away. Would you rather put your money into a first division club or a second division club, or would you rather put your money into a first division club and have your second division become a third? I mean, that's the kind of BS that U.S. soccer does, but that's where we are. But I mean, something that Jay Heaps said in an interview, not with me, but specifically, but whenever he came out to the Hammers matches, the first one he came out to, he did like a Q&A and just hung out with the tailgates with the guys. And somebody asked, hey, what about Pro Rel? And he said, it's been talked about between owners and presidents. And he said that it could end up being like a two-step promotion / relegation, where it has to be on-field performance and you have to have the financials to back it up.
Yep.
Because a team like Louisville City could certainly jump into MLS. Sure. You know, they might be one of the few teams that could financially afford to deal with travel in the MLS. But if you look at a team like Birmingham Legion, I love the Legion to death. I do. But I don't know
have the facility.
I don't think we have the facilities. Exactly. And so a team like Legion, who don't even have their own soccer specific stadium, we're sharing with UAB, that probably shouldn't be promoted into MLS, even if we were to be the best. And that sucks. But that's just kind of how it is, because as much as we want Pro Rel within US soccer, we have to realize as well is that compared to the rest of the game, we are so new. See, like in England, they could start it right away because everybody was playing on a little dirt, you know, a little grass field, and they could all start at the very beginning, or, you know, they could all grow together. But US soccer is so young that they're having to catch up with everybody. So they're building big stadiums, but then poor areas can't catch up to that, even if they are good enough. It's just not a good look. It's kind of like Wickham Wanderers, you know, that if you saw their pitch in the US or in the EFL championship, and then they go to somewhere like St. Andrews, where, you know, it's one of the best grounds in all of England. And then you go to Wickham Wanderers, who have a capacity of maybe 5,000, maybe.
Well, I follow Accrington Stanley. They're the team that I follow over in Europe, and they're in League One, and that's probably as high as I can see them going, just for the fact their stadium's 5,000-ish.
Yeah,
and that's not standing. You know, I think Birmingham, BBVA Field is probably bigger than this, and I know Toyota Field is. You know, just how it is, but that's where their cap is now. Could they possibly move up to, EFL Championship? I think they could, but I don't think the facilities. You know, I question whether their facility. It would be the smallest facilities. They're already one of the smallest facilities in League One. So
exactly.
To me, like, South Georgia Tormenta, you know, right now, and I know they're building a stadium, so this is probably a little bit unfair, but to me, for them to go from USL League One to even USL Championship, probably a little bit of a stretch, but I think we're still close where you could do it. Where especially if you look at some of the places where the two teams play.
Yeah.
You know, it's something, you know, that you could do, and I know the infrastructure that's being built in USL is very huge right now. And like I said here, you know, Phoenix going from 6,100 to almost 10,000 at their pop-up stadium is huge. And I know what Providence is coming, next couple of years, 2022, I think is the anticipated date for them. But Monterey, I think, is going to, you know, be a little bit on the smaller. The Root Stadium, I haven't seen a whole lot, but if it's what they played in Nisa, that's almost like Taft Stadium there, you know, with the Energy. So, and I know Energy's got a stadium coming, but to me, that's the biggest thing for USL is to get the infrastructure. But I think you could implement between League One and USL Championship, because the minimum standards is that 5,000 stadium, and I think most teams probably average 30. You know, to me, if you had a stadium that was between 5 to 8,000 is probably perfect for the level where we're at right now. For most fan bases, because San Antonio FC averages probably between 6 to 7,000 on a realistic basis on number, instead of just, the numbers that they kind of inflate. I think on average they probably average 6,000 on a normal year, 6 to 6,500. Of course, they inflate it, if like most people do. But I just think if the longer that USL waits, the harder that's going to do, because the gap's going to get bigger. USL's League One's growing, but so is USL Championship, and the stadiums that are coming in now are much nicer than what came in 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
For sure. And you mentioned Tormenta, and it's funny because we played them in the PDL when we were still the Hammers, and they were still Tormenta, and they had a following. I mean, they brought over 100 people to an away day to Birmingham, and that's just a dedicated following happening in Tormenta. So I really hope they end up in a championship.
The opposite of the Red Wolves.
There's a lot of people within Birmingham circles that absolutely hate Chattanooga FC or FC Chattanooga, whichever one it is, whichever one's not the Red Wolves. They absolutely hate that team and absolutely hate their fans. So it's been a very interesting rivalry, and it's so funny because people are like, Red Wolves don't have fans, but certain people within Birmingham circles are like, okay, well, that's fine. They still pay their players. So, people like to take those pop shots, which I don't know why certain people within Birmingham have really taken disdain towards Chattanooga. It seemed very random to me.
Well, no, the backstory on that is, so USL and Chattanooga FC had discussions. The Chattanooga ownership was split on it, and one of the GMs, or I forget his exact role, basically split from them and decided, hey, I'm going to go with the USL. And at the time, they were thought that USL was going to take the field, Finley Stadium, I think it's what it's called. They were basically going to outbid the ownership and just basically replace them. Now that's not what happened, but that's why it's such a sour subject, is because how it was started is CFC said no, okay, we're going to pass. One of the owners, or one of the GM, or somebody that was high up, I don't think he was an owner, but one of the GMs of their jump ship. They ended up taking the academy or the women's team along those lines. So it's probably the biggest misstep USL did, or has done, which is saying a lot, because Chattanooga FC is one of, it's like Detroit FC. You're not going to go into there unless hopefully you're not going to go in there unless you have, your shit together. And let's be honest, USL, it's a owner from Utah, so it's not even a local owner. They play on the suburbs. Now they are building a nice facility, don't get me wrong, but for the U.S. Soccer Wars, Chattanooga is not exactly the hotbed where you think is going to support two teams. And it's not saying that they can't. I think in time they will.
It's also two different crowds that are going to.
Oh, it's way different.
So this is kind of the last thing before, kind of end the podcast, but we kind of talked about it a lot throughout the night. But I just read this update. I just got sent this text. Apparently what happened with Loudon. And their excuse is, wow, this one's an all-timer for me. Their reasoning is saying, hey, we don't have racists at the club. There are no racists in the SG. But if there were racists, here is their explanation of why they were being racist, aka doing monkey chants. Apparently, a certain player, LaCavia, went over to the supporter section and gave them the bird. That was their excuse for doing monkey chants. it's not funny. Racism is not funny, but that is the funniest thing, the funniest excuse I've ever heard. Well, he gave us the bird, so I had to be racist. I mean, come on. It makes sense. I mean, geez Louise, that's rough.
Yeah, that's not going to go over well.
I I don't know where to keep going from that one. Harry, man, you were awesome. This has been an awesome conversation. Got to get you on again sometime soon, man.
Hey, we will. We'll definitely talk again here.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on, taking up a lot of your time. I really appreciate it, man. And hey, follow him on Twitter. Go listen to all his podcasts that he's involved with. Harry's a great guy, great dude, great content. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Thank you, sir.